Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. In today's episode, I speak with Christine Maligec. She's with the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, and we're talking about what it's going to look like with respect to resumption post-COVID and how our whole community stakeholder engagement piece is going to be slightly modified. So stay tuned. Hey, Christine, good to see you again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Leanne. How are you?
Good, good. So we find ourselves at this taping in the middle of this COVID crisis. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, there is some talk in the US and some places in Asia of getting back to normal, starting to open up some of the restrictions and starting that resumption strategy. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, just a little bit about your thoughts on what that could look like, what kinds of things communities need to think about before they do that. So, tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, thank you, Leanne. I appreciate you having me on today again. So, as you know, we're presently in the business continuity phase. So we have taken our businesses or our operations and have done our absolute best to make sure that we're able to continue to serve our clients. And wherever we are unable to do so, if we're still able to do some outreach and keep them in the loop on how things are going, that's always a great way to kind of keep things moving and the momentum going. And we also should be checking on our premises as well. And so that kind of keeps us going up until a point where we end up with business resumption. But it's not just business resumption in the classic case that, we take a look at where maybe you have a flood or a fire or, your sprinkler line bursts in your building. This is going to be a full-scale societal resumption. And so similarly to how we started to kind of wind down activities in the public in order to help manage and flatten the curve, we're going to have to do something similar to that to get things back up and running, to be incredibly mindful about maintaining the efforts that we've presently had and not to further disrupt any sort of economic, health, or social benefits from our efforts right now, from staying inside, flattening the curve, and employing good hygiene standards by washing our hands and stuff as well. So, first things first is I think, moving forward into the future, we're going to have to wait for two things. First is condition, and second is time. And so with condition, we'll have to wait for guidance from the Chief Medical Officer as they continue to do research across Canada and across the world on how COVID is adapting and responding and how others have, in previous areas, have started to resume society and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And it's through this research and this science that I believe that the Chief Medical Officer and those who are helping to facilitate this societal resumption will be incredibly mindful on how to do it safely for everybody and still preserve our economy. The second element is time. And so we have to do it at the right time to make sure that we don't overwhelm various systems and that we're mindful of what it takes to actually start a business back up. So as you know, many businesses and many operations have had to lay off employees. So we need to be incredibly mindful, and we need to prepare ourselves to engage with our employees, make sure that they're able to return back or find new employees, check our supply chain, make sure that they're able to fulfill the orders and the needs and the demands of our customers or the service providers. There's a whole continuum of the business value chain that we need to be incredibly mindful of.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I know a lot of businesses, depending on the nature of their workforce, some have just temporarily laid off and said, as soon as I can get the doors open, we'll be back at full capacity. There's others that, maybe it's more the retail sector, the tourism sector, where people, they've maybe left, they've gone home. You think temporary workers in the ag sector too. Maybe they've gone back to where, there are other countries. And so you think getting that workforce back, businesses have to start thinking about that now as far as, so if I opened up at 50% tomorrow, what's it going to look like? And so I think your advice on thinking about these things now is kind of an important thing for businesses to do, even municipalities. I don't know if you've Had any experience there as far as any discussions as to what it's going to look like for municipalities?
Well,
Maybe it's not.
again, everything it fits into an ecosystem, and there's a lot of moving parts. So, as the province looks at resuming their order of government and creating something that would be a normal that fits within the physical distancing and the hygiene guidance from the chief medical officer, municipalities will have to do the same. So similarly, as we start that slow societal resumption, maybe taking a look at, maximum occupancy and core services as part of your business continuity and business resumption plan, and seeing really what is important for municipalities to start moving forward. So there might be some operations that, don't necessarily bring in or have a maximum occupancy, like city office, to process payments, libraries. The maximum occupancy on those tend to be fairly low. You can also continue to control maximum occupancy on those a little bit more. Facilities like rec centers and pools may require a little bit more time. We may need to flatten the curve a little bit more on that. We may need additional guidance on things like how to maintain chlorine and other hygiene standards at pools before we move forward on things. So as we slowly ramp up some of these operations again and observe what's happening and what the outcomes are, then we can slowly take a look at expanding the number of people we can have in the same room or building together. Just again, being incredibly mindful of physical distancing. This is going to be a brand new education, not just for those who run businesses, but for society in general. Like even if you go to a grocery store, you usually are standing with somebody's cart nipping at your heels. How different has your shopping experience been?
Yeah.
It'll be vastly different no matter where you go moving forward based on these social distancing criteria.
So once say we're resumed, everybody's almost back at capacity. What are your thoughts on what it's going to look like from an engagement standpoint in the future? Like how do you think that what we've gone through, whether it's going to be 6 weeks, 6 months, or over a year, what is some of the things you think are going to change when it comes to engagement of communities, of stakeholders?
Well, firstly, mass gatherings is going to be something that we're going to have to reconsider. So recent announcements in the news have deferred or delayed or postponed major events like Stampede and K-Days and Folk Festival. Even our Fringe Festival here in Edmonton is not going to happen this year because just the order of magnitude of people who come and gather. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to reimagine what special events are in communities, because special events are the lifeblood of communities, and that's what drives economic development, so on and so forth. So if you can't have a mass gathering, why don't we try looking at doing the opposite of things? So instead of doing something big and bringing people together, how about we do something where we can keep people separated? We can do things in our front yards. We can do things in our neighborhoods. We can do it instead of big. We can do it somewhat smaller so we can kind of control the gatherings. But also as well, we still do need to reach out to those in our community to let them know that we're open for business, let them know what the new social norms are. And I really strongly encourage using this business continuity phase to find out who you need to get a hold of, how you're going to get a hold of them, and what your key messaging is going to be moving forward. So, for instance, as we are moving towards a lot of information in the news and a lot of information through social media, having your message through social media, I think right now is incredibly important. Being able to connect in with those who want to connect in with you, and starting that presence if you don't presently have it, get on it and just do something terrific. I'm going to give a wonderful shout out to my community, the city of Beaumont, and the work that they've done through social media. If you haven't seen it, I really do encourage you. One of their best campaigns I've seen so far is Open in Beaumont. So they're helping to support small businesses, those that are open and respecting the Chief Medical Officer's guidance on social distancing and hygiene, by letting people know that they're open. And so that you can order everything from home-based businesses that are candles and other things, all the way up to short stays open and doing pickup. So having engagement strategies like that within a municipality, but also with your clients as well, is incredibly important right now, and also for your survivability.
That's great. So is there anything else before we wrap up, Christine, that maybe I didn't mention that you wanted to mention before?
Well, you know what? Also now is a really good time to just sit back and reflect while you have some time as to what a new normal could look like. because what we presently know to be normal isn't going to be what's going to be in the future either. So I know a lot of businesses right now are pivoting just to be able to maintain that business continuity, help society, and survive. You know, we hear great stories like Bauer Hockey Equipment with, you know, the fact that they're not selling hockey equipment. They've actually retooled their business to create face shields. I have a wonderful friend who owns a promotions company, and he's spending a lot of his time reconfiguring his order selection for PPEs and for other items to keep people at home and to help with social distancing. So I think now's a good time to take a look at how you do business and what that might look like moving forward. And as we start moving forward to things like societal resumption and we look at stimulus, another thing I might maybe want to keep top of mind is just how interdependent everything is and how precarious these systems are. So as we move towards things like infrastructure stimulus and buildings, and whether it be municipal or corporations make an investment now just to kind of get people employed and get them moving, we need to be really mindful that trades, sub-trades, and suppliers are suffering. And so if we're not using good project management and construction management skills, this could certainly turn into a situation where economic stimulus turns into construction default claims, and also as well lock reserves up in litigation for some time. So just being really mindful, working with your contractors, working with your subcontractors, working with your suppliers to make sure everybody can fulfill the jobs, and that also that we're not taking on too much too soon. As much as we want to keep working, we want to get all this work done, taking on too much too soon can put us in a bad situation. Just be really mindful about how much we take on and staging work in a very deliberate way.
Well, thanks again, Christine, for your wisdom and for your experience. And I'm sure we'll talk again in the near future. So
Wonderful.
take care.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.